So the question is why would you want to rent or buy a property you haven't seen? Because there's so much that you can see by going there in person. One would be the neighborhood. Even if the property's great, maybe the neighborhood's not great. Maybe there's a junkyard next to you. Hi, this is Anita from Real Estate Crunch. Today we want to talk a little bit about, can you rent a property without viewing it? Can you even buy a property without viewing it? The answer is that yes, you can, but the question is, why would you? I want to tell something from my own personal experience, which happened to us recently. I actually, spend a lot of my time in Hanoi, Vietnam, where I have an office there. And we recently were looking for a new place to rent. And, as in a lot of major cities, rental properties can vary here according to the cost, especially you want to live in certain areas. Some places can be more expensive than others. So we've been looking for quite a while, and I sort of have this policy whenever I'm looking for a, rental or other property, I'll say to my staff, you know what, you have to look at least 10 or 15 places before you make a decision, because I just sort of really feel like if we don't look and see what's out there, then we really don't know. Don't take the first one that you see. But yet there's so much that you can see in person that you will not be able to see just online. And I will give you an example. The other week, we went to view this place online, and actually online, the place looked great. And I said, oh, this looks like the perfect place for us. This looks really, really good. And they even had this apartment upstairs that looked really great. And they had this big balcony that had a great view according to the pictures of what they had. And, they told us what the size was and how big it was. It was about the size we wanted. The area wasn't exactly where I wanted, but I thought, if this is such a great place, we can kind of work with the area if we need to, and we can see, because this looks like the perfect place for us. So it was a Saturday afternoon. We needed to view the property, and I went out there with my manager to view it. And we got there early, and I said, let's go check around the area. We checked around the area, and I said, this is kind of dirty. The roads are really dirty. This looks kind of dirty. How safe is this place really? And when we got to the property itself, we looked around, and I said, what's going on here? And when we got into it, actually, it was horrendous. It didn't look anything like the pictures at all of what they showed us that it would be. In fact, it looked bad. Nobody had lived there for 3 years. And I don't know where he got the photos that he put up online. Maybe it was from when the house was brand new, but whatever it was terrible. The kitchen was terrible. Everything was bad about it. And I thought, what would have happened if we would have just looked at the pictures online and had, just kind of said, yeah, we'll take it? What would have happened? It would have been a complete and total disaster. So the question is, why would you want to rent or buy a property you haven't seen? Because there's so much that you can see by going there in person. One would be the neighborhood. Even if the property's great, maybe the neighborhood's not great. Maybe there's a junkyard next to you. Maybe there's, someone down the street that doesn't look good. That's going to totally destroy everything you need the property for. So in other words, there's lots of things that you can see by viewing it that you wouldn't. And the other thing is that a good realtor usually, or a company, will say, look, we don't want to rent to someone unless they have seen it in person. And the reason is because it's just too risky for them. To rent to a property to someone unless they've seen it, because there's too much that can go wrong. There's too much that, people might say, look, we didn't know about this, we didn't know about that, so they could end up with more trouble. So that is why, to be honest with you, yes, you could rent a property. You can even buy a property. I had someone in my family who bought a property that they hadn't seen. And I thought, my goodness, that for me is too risky too. Why don't you, if you're going to move to a place, fly down there, check it out, make sure you get in the best place possible, because actually buying property or buying a home or buying whatever you need to buy is a huge investment. And, if you can't afford the $500 or whatever it might cost you to fly down there to check it out, then there's a problem, because really, you want to be able to see the area. You want to know where you're going to be living and what it's like. You want to get a feel for the neighborhood. So my suggestion is that even though, yes, you can rent a property without it, but then why would the landlord be so willing to rent it to you without you seeing and take your money for it? So the best thing that you can do to protect yourself is to make sure that you see the property before you rent it, you buy it, and before you decide that this is the place that you want to be. We have a blog that we have written on this where you can read more about this. We'll put a link in the description below so that you can check it out. But you need to really ask yourself this question. Why would the owner or be willing to give you the property without meeting you too? Because they should want to meet you and know who's going to be in their property. So those are all questions that you need to also ask yourself. And we talk about that more in our blog post. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. And we hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. And we'd love to hear from you if you have any questions or comments. And we'd like to thank our team who's put this together, especially Rico. We appreciate him for helping put all this together for us. Thank you so much for being part of our community and listening to us.